All right, we're going to take volume a step further by adding in fractions. So we're going to do volume of prisms that have fractional side lengths. So first, we need to remind you how to multiply fractions. So when we're multiplying or dividing, we need improper fractions. And then we are going to simplify using our factor chart. Once we simplified, we can just multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and get our answer. Okay, so we've got a little cheat sheet here. Remembering when we are simplifying, we are looking at those diagonals to see what they simplify by. These simplified by 4. And these simplified by 1. So let's look at some cubes to begin with. So how do I know that these are cubes? For number 1, we have these 3 tick marks. That tells me all 3 dimensions, we only have 3 dimensions in a 3-dimensional shape, are the same measure. So if this side length is 2.5, that means every single side length is 2.5. So for my volume, which is length times width times height, 2.5 is the length, the width, and the height. So volume is 2.5 times 2.5 times 2.5. So first step is we are going to make them improper. So when we make it improper, remember we are doing 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 over 2, times 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 over 2, times 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 over 2. So for these, when we have the cube and all the side lengths are the same, I actually don't need to look at those diagonals because they're not going to simplify. I am just going to plug into my calculator and multiply across. So I'm going to do on the top, 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. And on the bottom, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And again, you can use a calculator for that. Our units are feet, and whenever we're talking about volume, it is cubed. So 125 over 8 feet cubed. You can leave it like that. You do not need to make it into a mixed number. So let's look at number 2. Same thing. I see these tick marks. That means 1, 2, 3. All 3 dimensions are the same length of 2 1/3. So I'm plugging in my length of 2 1/3 times my width of 2 1/3 times my height of 2 1/3. Converting to improper fractions. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7 over 3. Here, 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7 over 3, times 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7 over 3. Again, when all 3 side measures are the same, I don't need to look at simplifying. I am just going to multiply across. So I'm multiplying on the top. 7 times 7 is 49. 49 times 7 in my calculator is 343. On the bottom, 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. Our units were inches, and it should be cubed for volume. So those are examples with cubes. We're going to see those a lot. We're also going to look at just regular prisms that have different side lengths. So we just need to identify these 3 side lengths. So I'm going to set up my volume is going to be this first side length of 3 1/7 times this second side length of 2 1/10, times the third side length of 3 1/2. Before I do anything, I am going to convert these to improper fractions. 3 times 7 is 21. 21 plus 1 is 22 over 7. For the second one, 2 times 10 is 20. 20 plus 1 is 21 over our original denominator of 10. And our last one, 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7 over 2. So now that we have this set up, I'm going to do one at a time because we've only done, two fractions at a time, but one problem at a time, rather than trying to do all three of these simultaneously. So first, I am just going to look at the diagonals of these first two fractional values, okay? So looking at this, I'm going to use my factor chart. I'm looking at 22 and 10. 22 and 10 both divide by 2. You can use your calculator to help you with this, or you can use your factor chart. So if I'm looking at 22 divided by 2, I can look on my factor chart. 22 divided by 2, the 2 matches up with 11. 10 divided by 2, maybe you know that. If not, on the factor chart, the 2 matches up with the 5. Now I'm going to look at my other diagonal, 7 and 21. So 21 and 7 both divide by 7. And maybe you know it by heart, but if not, 7 divided by 7 matches up with 1. Any number divided by itself is 1. 21 and 7 matches up with 3. So 21 divided by 7 is 3. Now, I need to bring down, first I'm going to multiply these together. 11 times 3 is 33. On the bottom, 1 times 5 is 5. And we didn't use the 7/2, so I need to bring that down because we still need to multiply it by that third value, 7/2. And again, I'm going to look at my diagonals. So 33 and 2. So 33 2, first of all, only divides by 1 and 2. 33 divides by 1, it doesn't divide by 2, so the only thing that they share is 1. 5 and 7, the only thing that those two share is 1. So what that means is they're all going to stay the same. 33 divided by 1 is 33. 5 divided by 1 is 5. 7 divided by 1 is 7. 2 divided by 1 is 2. And then last step, since we simplified, I am just going to multiply across, and I'm going to use my calculator to help me. 33 times 7 is 231 over 5 times 2 is 10. Our units were yards. It should be yards cubed. Let's try one more like that because these are harder than the ones on the front. So again, we just want to multiply these three measures. So our first side of 7.5 times our second side of 4 times our third side of 2 1/2. Before I do any simplifying, I'm making them improper. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 plus 1 is 15. So we get 15 over 2 times 4 as a fraction is just 4 over 1 times 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5 over 2. Now let's just look at our first pair of fractions to see if they simplify. So looking at my first diagonal, 15 and 1. Well, 1 is only going to divide by 1. So the only thing they could possibly divide by is 1. 15 divided by 1 is just going to be 15. 1 divided by 1 is just going to be 1. Our other diagonal, 2 and 4. 2 and 4 both divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2, since there's nothing paired up with it, that means 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then I'm going to multiply across. 15 times 2 is 30 over 1 times 1 is 1. Again, remember, we are not done. I need to multiply this third fraction. So I'm going to write that in here, times 5 over 2. Let's look at those diagonals. So I'm going to look at my first diagonal, 30 and 2. Reminder, 2 only divides by 1 and 2. So let's look at 30. 30 divides by 1, 30 divides by 2. So their greatest common factor is going to be 2. 30 divided by 2, the 2 matches with 15. 2 divided by 2, any number divided by itself is 1. 5 and 1, 1 will only divide by 1, so that's all that they could divide by. So 1 divided by 1 stays as 1. 5 divided by 1 stays as 5. And then last but not least, we are going to multiply across. 15 times 5 is 75. 1 times 1 is 1. So we get 75 over 1, or just 75 inches cubed. Either of those answers would be accepted.